Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey.
Are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to Bitcoin!
That's a nickname in its own way, but we came up with a new couple of words for corn.
Oh, yeah. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
Can you quickly tell everybody what a rug pull is?
Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government, coercion, and control.
Yo, Shadalay, GMoney is back from a little vacation, took the kids out to Cabo San Lucas for a little spring break, which was pretty awesome. Had a ton of fun out there. And it's kind of sad when you're able or you feel more comfortable walking the streets of Mexico than you do of like downtown LA. I was in downtown LA like, I don't know, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. And there were people injecting drugs everywhere. There was tents everywhere. There was like zombies walking around. It was bad. Like it was actually, not a fun place to be walking around. This is downtown LA. And I'm in Mexico. Granted, it's a nice part of Mexico, I guess you could say. But, the streets, even where the streets where we were staying, I mean, there was graffiti on the walls and there was empties. It wasn't the nicest area. But I felt safer there than I did in downtown LA, which is kind of telling you something very, very broken and wrong with American society. And so here we are. We're back pushing the signal on March 12th. We've got a great show tonight. Only 3 days away from March 15th. Are we going to get any Covfefe spiciness this year? I guess we'll see. And so let's get started. Go throw us a like, share the channel, share the info with friends and family. Go leave a shade of late in the comments. But like I came back kind of fired up. And if you guys missed the GART chat today, you guys missed an absolute like barn burner. Like we were going nuts. Okay. So if you guys are coming to Nashville, okay, I recommend, come out, get the tickets. You can go to badlandsmedia.tv/events and you can snag a ticket right before March 15th. They're only, I think $35. Otherwise it's like $5 more or something. But that's for a virtual ticket. So there's still a couple of in-house tickets available, but the virtual tickets are great. You get to see the recordings of us debating. We had a pretty fire episode today already, calling out Ash and, Alpha for voting hard for, in fake elections. And so anyways, it was fun, but you can join the fun, come check it out. I think you guys will enjoy it if you guys enjoy this. Okay. So go check that out. I just want to point that out first because it was, we went for an hour and we were like screaming at each other. It was hilarious. It was fun. So I think Nashville's going to be, I think everybody's, on edge with all the craziness going on. Okay. But, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Old proverb for people who vote and pay taxes, right? Like how many times are you going to continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result? The exploitation games. And it's funny because today in the actual GART, debate, they were using the same political like arguments to get people to vote. They didn't like our line of reasoning. Like they were saying, well, someone's just going to kill you and take your Bitcoin, right? Or Ash was saying, who's going to build the roads? The total boomer responses people get. But then we have, we've got a bunch of like, pussified Bitcoiners out there to a degree, right? So Pastor Coin comes out and says, anybody know a good tax attorney in Canada that specializes in Bitcoin? I need someone who knows about Bitcoin mining, depreciation, etc. Maybe even a financial advisor or accountant who knows the ins and outs of this stuff. And so evangelicals who vote and pay taxes are the biggest hypocrites on the planet. Full stop. Right? Here is a pastor asking how to comply with tyranny. Right? They're literally like begging and pleading. How do I comply? Please. I want to be on the good list, and what does your religion mean then? Is this a spiritual battle or are you in it for something else? Right? Where do you draw the line, Pastor? But Alpha's doing the same thing, right? Alpha's talking, smack on Candace Owens, but Alpha today said you had to vote. And so if you vote, you are literally supporting corruption, theft, genocide at every level by voting and paying your taxes. And voting is part of that too, guys. Like you are literally praying for a corrupt, immoral system. Like you're participating in it. You're literally breathing air into the thing you say you don't like. And so where does that like rubber meet the road for some of you? Because it doesn't really hold any logic with me, and your decision to do that is simply just based on your belief system, the exploitation of your beliefs, right? You are believing something is going to get better by giving over your power and authority to another person. So anyways, let's get started. I know we've got a lot to cover today. If you guys want to pick up the 1776.love digital 1776 shirts, guys. I want to see you guys repping these in Vegas. All right. I want to show up in Vegas full force, the frogs. I want all the frogs out there. I'm going to be repping this every day. Sorry, my voice is kind of out because I was yelling and screaming. Some DJ named Betroda played at the pool. I don't know. We were it's only a couple days ago. We're having a good time. And so, but let's rep digital 1776. Okay. Go get your tickets. All right. We'll put the link in here a couple of times. Use code Pepe. You get 10% off. All right. So let's get into some commercials and we're going to bring our guest on. All right. So let's go ahead and start.
It says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
Seeing Burning Bright as a leprechaun is absolutely hilarious. It fits him so well. All right, let's also get into River. And so Stack Sats with River, the Bitcoin-only platform built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Why River? Zero fee reoccurring buys. Stack Bitcoin effortlessly, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. 3.5% Bitcoin interest on cash. FDIC insured. No minimums. Withdraw anytime. Expert US-based support. Human help plus private client services for big buys. Business accounts. Boost your balance sheet with Bitcoin and earn 3.5% paid in Bitcoin. Top-tier wallet support. Send, receive, and manage Bitcoin securely, including Bitcoin Lightning. Unmatched security. Full reserve custody, multi-sig, cold storage, and proof of reserves. Join the Bitcoin revolution at badlandsmedia.tv/river and earn real returns. That's badlandsmedia.tv/river. All right. Enough with the ads. Let's bring our guest in. And Mr. Knox Hodl, welcome to RugPull Radio, sir. You got a dash of like cold water there. Sorry, to kind of come in hot, but this is kind of how we do things here.
All right, man. I can appreciate that. Totally legit. I line up with it, I know you probably want to know like Bitcoin story, all that, but you touch a serious pain point for me with the IRS and the taxes. My parents, I grew up in a small town in Kansas and just, dirt poor folks, like we're talking no shoes in the summertime kind of family, my dad worked, third shift for years and years. 20 years he worked. My mom was a secretary and, all the things that women did in the 70s and 80s. And they worked their asses off for 20, 25 years. And my dad wound up taking a retirement right at the 20-year mark. They had an opportunity to take a lump sum. They were not financially literate. They were like most Americans, they just didn't know the system. They didn't know the loopholes. They didn't know what to do with the cash. So they put it into a business, which, wound up going belly up. It was, one of these silly ceramic shops that, are in every small town that wind up not working out. And, they wound up feeding more money into the machine than they expected to. And at the end of the year, they just didn't have any money left. They just had burned through it. Now, they didn't keep all the receipts and they didn't do all the things that you should do to protect yourself, from the man. And I was meanwhile off serving my country. I joined the Marine Corps and went to Desert Storm and I served in combat. And back home, my parents were getting their house taken from them. The IRS literally came in, took their house, evicted my parents. They were basically destitute at, 40 some years old, it was awful, and I can say that through my adult life, I've endeavored to find a way out. I went down to Anarchapulco. I listened to the story. I really tried to understand how to avoid it. And, so you strike a chord with me talking about the paying your taxes stuff and being a Bitcoiner and sort of, you say the hypocrisy of it. I think it's, there's a lot, it's more complex. It's more nuanced for me than that it's like, man, if I felt like it would be in the best interest of my family to just cut that leech, that parasite out of my life, I would. And I'm desperately looking for that. I go through the, the ways of, there's a variety of ways that you can, and you can get somebody to help you. And there's a lot of that I've gone through, and it feels daunting and it feels dangerous and it feels like you're putting yourself at risk and your family at risk by doing that. And so I don't judge people that are still staying in the lines, because I know how hard it is when you're worried about the future of your family, and when you've done all the right things and you know they're setting it up and all these things that should be allowed, that should be basic human rights. In order to do them, we have to pay for them. I'm a big time hunter. That's one of the things, that's what I love. That's my passion. And, all through all this, my dad, he always bought a hunting license. He never, he wasn't a poacher. He wasn't shooting. He wasn't daylight, spotlight. And he always taught me, it was like, and, meanwhile, it's like, if that's what you're living off of, that's what you're eating. Like, it's literally like you have to pay somebody and get permission and get a license to go and provide meat that isn't antibiotics and, isn't an industrial meat compound that they serve at the restaurants. It's like, I just want real, whole. I want to know that it was fed by nature, and I want to feed that to my family. And so, here you are, take my money, and so, all this stuff kind of, I know I'm here as a producer of the Bitcoin conference, and that's probably what we're going to talk about, but I just want you to know, man, I have a lot of alignment here, but at the same time, I feel sometimes like, I'm living a double life. And some of it is intentional, that I'm trying to stay the gray man, like I don't speed. I don't run red lights, because I don't want the hassle of it, not because I'm not too big of a guy or I don't have the power to do these things or to go outside those systems. And to be sure, as much as I can, I'm on four wheels in mud, but I also know that, like, I have to, take my kids to activities, and I don't want any trouble along the way. So I kind of, as much as I can, I try to stay under the radar. And I think that's my approach. And it's like, I keep my stack in a place where I don't think it's easily examined for these purposes, that I can, I can make that decision. I can kick that can down the road a little bit about, like, what am I going to do when I do, cash those chips in a little bit to do something. And, unfortunately for the United States, and, I think some of the states in particular are feeling the pains of this. Mark Zuckerberg just moved to Miami. There was somebody else. I know there's another tech guy. Oh God, who was it? Another big one that also moved to Miami out of California. They're leaving.
Yeah. Grant Cardone, I think. Yeah.
He left out of Denver. Guys, I found, but it doesn't matter. But I'm just here to say, like, they're already feeling it at these localized places. They're feeling the pains of, like, people realizing there's greener pasture somewhere else, and you think about, like, Roger Ver, who left a long time ago, paid his way out and still had to come back. They came back for more. Like, they don't want you to get ahead. They don't, the government and the elite do not want you, the average person, to be able to get above and beyond their status quo of where they're at. You can't control that. So, I also I think about this, that, there's a couple thousand people who run the entire world, and so if we get a couple thousand or, tens of thousands of, say, Bitcoiners who unleash a world of economic power, how dangerous is that? Why are these bankers coming out and saying, like, Bitcoin is dangerous and it can't work in the current system, and they are opposing it at every turn? It's dangerous to the way that they've been doing, the uneven, system that they've created for themselves. So that was, well, man, I'm coming in hot.
I love that you came in hot, brother. Look, we're on Rumble. We're on a free speech platform. You can say whatever you want. We talk about election fraud. We talk about the Fauci poison. We talk about the bullshit. We talk about the pedophiles. And so you're welcome to jump in at any point. And thank you for still being here with us, for serving. We appreciate that. We love the Marine Corps. The fact that the show before us is a couple of Marines doing a show called Sit Rep. And so it's lovely to have you here. And thank you for making time for us. And by the way, guys, if you are not following Scott, go follow him, Knox_Hodl. Okay. He's one of us, as he just clearly, stated. He's a Kansas guy who's, mudding and doing all the great things and hunting, which I love to do, when I get a chance. Of course, I'm out in California, so I don't get to do that as much as I like to. But, Scott, you make a valid point here, right? Like, what are you supposed to do to protect your family? But as you know, they can indict you for anything, Scott. They don't need any actual evidence on you to take you away at any point in time. And, here we are at this special point in time. Your parents did not have the opportunity to fight this system in a way that was honorable or peaceful or have the moral high ground. The only option they had back then was kinetic, right? They didn't have another way. They didn't have an option. They had to either sneak around, stay under the radar, or, get screwed over, which unfortunately they did. But here we are, man, in this special point in history. We're in the 250th year of 1776. This country was started on a tax revolt, and so I'll just put this in your ear, being the producer of the Bitcoin conference. Imagine if everybody in Bitcoin conference just decided we're going to, an act of defiance of digital 1776, and how powerful that would be to the entire world, because it only takes a spark to light an entire inferno. And I'm telling you, Scott, we're getting closer and closer every single day. So thank you, sir, for your service. And thank you for what you're doing to put on an awesome event. So, we got the fire out of the way, Scott. So give us your Bitcoin journey. You already kind of told us, you were a Marine Corps guy, but give us your,
you know what? It's funny because, in high school, I was academically unskilled and kind of the class clown. And I went from being a class clown to carrying a M16 and being in combat in one of the elite fighting forces of the world in the Marine Corps. And I did that proudly. I was, it served an honorable 4 years. My turns tended to be that dramatic, even out of the Marine Corps. I got an interest in entertainment, and I thought that I wanted to write stories, and I had a lot of stories I was telling, and had done some writing, and I got into television. And in that way, that sort of like, you think you're leading the way, and then you wind up down a path that you look back on and you're like, that wasn't fundamentally what I was after. Technology was appealing to me, so I did a lot of editing, and I was one of the early nonlinear editors and helped launch Avid into mainstream. I flew all over the country teaching Avid to new installs. I was at the Golf Channel when they got their first Avid system, so I kind of got to go and see it start, what became, really the standard for filmmaking and television. And then just in that way that things happen, I found myself at a corporate gig cutting for Food Network, Travel Channel, HGTV, and the like, when it was Scripps Network still. And it was small, and I think it was rewarding in that way that we kind of all were like scrappy, and we did this, we produced things together, and we felt like a real team. And then in the way things happened, Discovery Channel came in and bought it up, and so I got handed papers in 2018. Along the way, like 2014, I had a good friend of mine just mention Bitcoin to me. And he said, and at this time also, I was starting to get really interested in like the entrepreneurial space. And so I had stood up a digital media accelerator program at the local entrepreneur center in Knoxville, where I was living. And but my buddy came over to my house, and he was like, he had been a roommate with my wife in college, and so they knew each other for a long time. But we also knew that he was like a major pothead. And he came by and he was like, hey man, you got to check out this thing, man. There's this Bitcoin thing. And I don't even know if he called it Bitcoin or it was something. I just, it didn't really like land, because also he was like, yeah, man, I'm like, I can like literally go on this website and order MDMA and they ship it right to my house, man. I'm like, you're getting drugs sent to your house? He's like, yeah, but I got to buy Bitcoin, and then I sell it, and and then I buy this stuff with it, and he was, buying other substances as well. But, that was his main thrill. So, and we actually partook a couple times where he would bring it up, and he'd be like, hey man, you ought to check out this guy, JSnip4, and Cliff High and Road to Ruta, and these guys, you know, they're online, man. Just go check it out. It's like the underground. They're talking about like things going on in numerology and all this stuff. And it tripped me out. So I did. I kind of dove in, and I was thinking like Litecoin's the silver, and, you know, like all these things that they were saying that I was just like enamored with, and trying to figure out like I still hadn't done anything about it. I'm just still evaluating. In the meantime, my job became less interesting to me because it was just becoming so corporate and mundane. It was like a gilded cage, to be honest. And but they gave me my walking papers and a decent severance. So I'm sitting on this money and an opportunity. So in January, that's when I went to Mexico. I went down to Acapulco, and I had also run into the Jeff Berwick story along the way. And so I was like, well, this guy seems, you know, intelligible, and so let me go down here and listen to him. And I think it was well, anyway, this was 2019 February, and I go down there, and my real drive there was like, I want to know that the people that are involved with whatever the hell this is are real people. You know, that they're smart, and that they're, you know, that they're real. So funny thing is that I get on a flight from Atlanta to Mexico City, and I'm sitting next to this guy that is the essence of evil. And you know how you can just smell the evil coming off of this guy. He's like smoking a vape in the airplane when, you know,
smelled like sulfur.
Yeah, he did. It was like, and he was like, his thing was like, he wanted to go down there and make connections so that he could sell 3D printed automatic weapons globally. And he was trying to link up with, you know, mercs and, you know, bad guys, you know, like, and he was interested in that. And he was telling me about how he was like getting away from his old lady who was, you know, had just gotten locked up for meth, and their kids got taken from him, and, you know, fuck this and that and all this. And, you know, I just like, what am I doing?
You're like, these aren't my people, man. I don't know what I'm getting into.
This is my first crypto event, you know, like I'm going to, and this guy, he seems to know his way around it, you know? So I'm like, Jesus, what have I done? But I get to Mexico City. I've got like 4 or 5 hours. I'm just sitting there, like thinking about like how my life had led me to this. You know, I've got a family, I've got kids. I'm like, what am I doing here? I should get on a plane and just take my ass back up to America, you know, and just live my gray life and be happy. But I didn't. I just, you know, I meditated on it, prayed about it, and I was like, I'm going to walk this out. So I get on the next plane, and like this bright shining light, this gentleman walks up, is Matthew Binney. He's out of Canada, and he's like a water saver. You know, he's like this guy that believes in living water, and he's like trying to preserve it as a thing. But he had these great, beautiful stories about like the truth of Bitcoin and how it relates to our world and how it's going to fix it. And it like relieved so much. I mean, I was just like, gave me a peace. And when I woke up I got to the hotel, got up the next morning, and I run into this guy right first thing, right at sunrise. I see, hey, Matt. From that moment, I didn't not see him every day that I was there, and I didn't spend a meal alone for all the people that he knew and connected me to. And I sat at dinner tables with Bitcoin core developers, and, you know, but more than that, there were a lot of EOS guys down there. So Brock Pierce was down there, and Dan
Held.
Yeah. And Brandon Bloomer and a lot of the EOS guys were all around down there. And they were a big presence. And the guys that I was having dinner with were like, we want to change the world, you know, like we want censorship freedom, and we want to be able to preserve like real understanding of like holistic medicine and, you know, all these things. And I was enamored with it, to be honest. And we had kind of a charismatic leader guy of the group that was burning through the Bitcoin he had mined in 2012, and, you know, was like kind of like putting these things on. And I just kind of got invited. And the next thing I know, I'm in DC and San Francisco and Denver, and got denied entry to Canada and Winnipeg. And it took me a bit to realize that was it. That was it. It was this presentation and, talking about the symbolism and the ideology of it. But underneath it, they own Bitcoin, like it was about Bitcoin, and it was about getting more Bitcoin and trying to increase your stack. And that was it. It took me a solid year of like going and try, because I wanted to believe, that I had unlocked something, that was going to change the world for the better. But it took me a little bit of digging on that. But eventually, and honestly, it was in and around when 2020 was hitting, and a lot of things really unlocked for me between 2018 and 2020, where it was started out with cryptocurrency and it ended with Bitcoin only, and really a distrust for all the parties and all the media and all of, agreeing with you, I don't believe in the vote. I don't believe in elections. I don't, there's too much proof that they've been stolen, like, I'm sorry, you've got to be under a rock or attempting to deny yourself understanding to not see, how they've been corrupted. So I'm with you on that 100%. And that's kind of what came out of that journey. And I knew I had skills for putting things together. Like I said, I put together this digital media accelerator. Along the way, I put together I called it Crypto Knox back in 2018. That was the first Knoxville crypto meetup. And it was mainly Bitcoin. That's really all we knew was, we kind of thought Litecoin was some silver to the gold of Bitcoin, but we were all stupid. We didn't really know, we were.
It's okay. I fell for that one too.
Yeah. So, I bought it. But you know what I did? I did sell it when Charlie Lee sold his. I was like, I'm reading you, bud, let's get GTFO. And so, and same with EOS. I owned a bunch of EOS back in the day, and I was just like, I had to let that go. And, I figured it out in those. Yeah,
you did your proof of work. You probably experienced a little bit of pain from the other ones going to zero against Bitcoin.
For sure. Yeah,
you finally do.
I tried day trading. I stayed up all night, man. My wife was like, I aged 20 years in like 3 years just by doing like stupid shit, like I yield farmed, I staked, I went from poly chain to, blah, blah, I did all that stuff, man. And at the end of it, it didn't feel good. It always felt like I was trying to unlock the understanding of like a multi-level, marketing company, like it always felt like that to me. The EOS stuff did, and then really getting in and trying to like increase my position in Bitcoin through all these measures. It was unrewarding at all.
Yeah,
it also cut my stack each time I did some of that.
Yeah, it felt like a fiat, kind of atmosphere that you were in. And so, no, that's a great story, And so were you like a Ron Paul libertarian type of guy? What were kind of your politics? Were you kind of rebel?
No, man. I was a compassionate voter. I wanted to vote for who I thought was a good person. And so I was not really, I've always felt independent, but I voted Democrat. I voted Republican. I went through my life, I never really stood by a party, but, I was like a pot smoking, gun carrying, anti-abortion Christian that, liked to party. And I went on tour with a rock band in 2005. And, like I was just enjoying life, I was kind of oblivious to it, like how it impacted me, like, things like inflation, monetary policy, things that I didn't understand and didn't know. Like in 2018, 2019, that's when I read The Creature from Jekyll Island. And then that got me to the Bitcoin Standard. And it just like, when I started doing that, it was like, oh, okay. I got the signal, like I started to tune in a little bit better and it just unlocked it. It's like, all you need is that. Like, it's already there. this understanding of scarcity, monetary policy, money printing. Like if you do any kind of like wake up to that, like it, you know, you're like immediately, you know, I think captivated by the understanding of that. I was, you know.
Yeah, and it seems like a never-ending journey too, because I think people try to describe Bitcoin and they think they know everything about it. But even today, right, being in it 10 years, I'm still learning new things about myself and this journey we're basically on to free ourselves from bondage, right? Like it's an ever like, you know, living kind of organism that's just keeps getting stronger and changing in different ways. And so, you know, it's kind of a beautiful journey, but it's interesting that you kind of started this journey in the, you know, ANCAP world, so to say, as your kind of like first, you know, introduction into it, where, you know, most people go for the, you know, the number go up. Oh, I want to make some quick money online. And, you know, this is how it works. But no, I love that story because that's, you know, that's part signal too, is we're all searching for, you know, what is it? And we're using discernment because we think, it's another scam. We don't really know until we've done our homework. And it takes 1,000 hours, guys. Like you're not just going to get this click. And so if you're here, you know, and you're new, like congrats, but like you've got a road ahead of you. It's not going to be given to you. And, you know, those paths along the way through rug pulls, through pain, are what ultimately will free you by freeing yourself, you know, from this thing. And so, no, love that story. It's an amazing journey for all of us. And it kind of had to be this way, right? Like it kind of had to be this individual journey you're going through, because I'm sure you run up in the, you know, the same problems with us. Whereas, you know, hey, how many people have you orange pilled? And you're like, well, probably not that many because, you know, just not that many people.
I've got my cousin in Nebraska. Somehow it clicked for him all of a sudden in the last year or so. And I got him to come to Vegas last year. And I was like, dude, just you come out, you'll get the reel, you'll get the signal, you'll understand it better. You know, he was not a guy that was necessarily going to read the Bitcoin standard without, you know, some extra, you know, incentive or some understanding that was spoon fed. And now he's, you know, he's fully in. But I will say, I went to buy a side of beef from a farmer a couple days ago, and he asked for a deposit. And I was like, any way you take Bitcoin? He's like, nope, not into it. And I was like, man, you should be, dude. You should be, you know, like you're selling the real thing, you know, like get something real for it, you know, like, but they don't, it's really hard, man. It's really hard if they don't understand the basis for value and that they're being stolen from, then they're not gonna, it doesn't click, you know, it just doesn't click for them. And and if you go any further than that with somebody that's not ready, then you're a wild maniac, a weirdo.
Yeah, you look like the pot smoking MDMA guy, right?
Yep. Which, by the way, that guy never kept any of his Bitcoin. And even today, he's got like, you know, scratch, you know, like he's got dust. And
he probably spent millions back then on.
But I do give him credit every time. You know, his last name is Love. And so I give a lot of love to that guy because he started this journey for me, unbeknownst to him, even at the time that it took, and that I got so deep into it that I converted my 401k into a self-directed IRA. I put everything I have into it. Like I went full balls in, you know, in 2020, you know, me and my wife, she then followed me in, and like, you know, basically it's all preserved over there. And I just, you know, I haven't even looked at it since we bought it. So
love it.
But yeah.
So tell us.
So along that way, I had that realization of truth and where I wanted to be, and that I wanted some part of that, you know, like I didn't want to go back into a gilded cage. Like, so I really started looking for opportunities in the space where I could add value. That's all. I was just like, where can I do the good work? Where can I take what my life's work has been? And I'm not a newbie, you know, like I'm not out of college. I've been around the block a little bit. So I was like, where can I take this experience where it will be valued in the space? And so the Bitcoin conference put up a post on LinkedIn, and they were looking for an event producer. And I was like, man, that's what I do. You know, I'm a producer. The last thing
that's what I was going to ask you next. It's like, how do you know, because we've got a lot of Bitcoiners on that are watching this, and they always want to get into the industry. And so, how did you get into the industry? And what was that like?
Well, you just, it was a translation of skill set. It was, you're not going to, especially, and this was when I went in, that was 2022 when I really started seriously looking at a job, because I had a gig. Actually, I had a gig for a couple of years with Zillow. That's a whole nother rabbit hole, to be honest. But I had my real estate license. I've got some rental properties. Having worked for HGTV, some of that took the income property, Scott McGilvray, some of that stuff was like, hey, wait, if I buy a cheap property and then I fix it up and then I can flip it and then buy another property and then rent it. And I rented some and I kept some. And so I still do have a little bit of real estate. So I have an interest in that market. And I've got a whole other theory about what's going on over there that, we may get into. But after my Zillow, the Zillow gig I knew was a 2-year gig. It was coming to an end 2022. And I saw this post come up for an event producer. And so before Zillow, my last major gig in production, I produced a Super Bowl spot for Zaxby's, which is a fast food restaurant. And so I've done some, substantial production work, as a freelance producer and even as a staff producer at Scripps and Discovery. And so, I just kind of looked at what the role required, and it was an activations producer. So it was like bringing the show to life, all the fun, bringing all the weird elements, the rock climbing walls and the shitcoin pinatas and all the wild, setting up the bazaar and making it, functional. And I was like, I can do that. I'm a guy that, I could find a pet raccoon on a Sunday afternoon if I needed it for a shoot, like I'm that resourceful hustler of a guy that, I can find whatever's needed to get the job and get the shot. And so I knew I could get the show. And I'd been to the Bitcoin conference. I went in 2022, Sound Music Festival, all the things. And actually I had my wife there, and we were actually on a buddy's, it was an EOS party on a boat. And, at this point, I already knew I was a Bitcoiner, but it was, some of my friends that I met in Mexico that I've stayed friends with, actually. And, but we're on that. And I tell my wife, I'm like, I should be putting events like this together, like I really should be. This is where I need to be. I didn't know how. I wasn't then like, I'm going to start applying for jobs. It wasn't that, it just in the way that the world works and destiny happens, the pieces came together. And in fact, they initially said, yeah, we want to bring you on. And that was in August. And my official gig that I had committed to with Zillow wasn't up till December, but I was going to let it go. I was like, I know I'll burn that bridge, but I don't care. Because, as things happened, they delayed the hiring of this role till December, like literally like to the day when I was meant to end my role. It was, I got hired. And so it was just like, it just happened.
So, and being part of this. So what year, how long have you been there now at the Bitcoin conference?
Since 23. I did the 23 event in Miami. Okay.
And so doing past events, everyone's kind of got a common theme, and, for the most part, Bitcoiners do, but we're a weird bunch of autistic retards.
Yeah.
And how do you actually cater to all of us? Because look, I love what you guys do. I think you guys cast like the biggest net possible for as many people to kind of come to it. And you guys still have some niche stuff for the people that want it, but still you get these guys that complain, you get some of the drama with the BIP 110, and then you get the drama with the David Bailey and the Nakamoto. It's so exhausting because here we are trying to change the world. And the only conference that has actually been around that put the president of the United States on stage, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And they're bickering over here because you guys aren't maximalism enough. And it's just ridiculous. I think it's absolutely insane. And so, how do you cater to all us retards out there and be like, man, we got to really like herd these cats?
It is a delicate balance. Honestly, it doesn't upset. You saw my Twitter page. I don't have a lot of followers. I'm not a social media guy, really. I don't go heavy into that stuff. So I don't really get into all that, and believe it or not, our company, well, let me just say that when I got hired, I went through several rounds. I mean, it was probably 4 rounds of interviews with groups of people, from the company. By the time I got done, I honestly didn't know who was in charge, like in the best way, like they were all owners. They were all like these alpha A type, people, A players, that were, you could tell that they were like really passionate about what they do, each of them, and they did different things, and they crossed realms. And when I finally got on board, I was like, wait, he's your okay, this is the, like, we don't talk about org charts. We don't deal with any of that. So, I don't deal with David Bailey. I don't have a lot of interaction with him. In fact, the first event that I went to, I ran into him in an elevator and he didn't know who the fuck I was, like, that's just the truth. I mean, I love the guy, I think that what he's doing, he puts his whole heart into, nobody knows this stuff, but when we're on the calls, I see the blood, sweat, and tears. I'm looking through behind the curtain, and the master of puppets is actually, like he's a human and he's just doing his best. He's just trying to live the fullest, get the most of it. But one thing he's done really well.
Yeah, go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
One thing he's done really well is he's let the company and the experts that he's hired, the people that do their jobs, he lets us do our jobs. And so our programming team, Craig and his people, like, they are awesome at what they do, and they can feel, I know that they're feeling this barometer of like, we need to weight it more this, or we need more that. One of the things that I know has been kind of like, I don't know, I've noticed it, is that there's a real heavy weight towards the masculine, toward the male speakers. We have a lot more females involved this year than we've ever had. I've seen, because I see them come through. Again, we're not all in each other's business, but when we all do, we share each other's celebrations constantly. Like, if you were on one of our internal calls, it's like a celebration when we are going through talking about our goals for the week and our synergies and the things that are blocking us. Like, we're all there trying to solve these riddles and put these puzzle pieces together in such a kinship of love. And when we get done with this, it's one of these things that I realized with like production back in the day, is that when you end a shoot and everybody comes together and it's a love fest, and you're all like in the huddle and you're just like, oh, we did it. Imagine that with like 75 or 80 people, like, that all just put together this 3-day event where we stood up a city of 20,000 plus people and brought in dignitaries from around the world. And like, who the fuck am I, dude? Like, I mean, seriously, I'm the class clown from Kansas, like, who the fuck am I? I literally, you watch the video of Trump, you'll see a guy in a cowboy hat at the front of the stage. That's me, motherfucker. Like, who am I? Like, I'm standing with the president because, like, as part of the security detail out front, the Secret Service was like, come out front with us, man. And I'm like, who am I?
That's
like,
an amazing story. That's awesome.
Getting in this room. And somehow I found my way into this like global conversation about this thing that's going to change the world. You don't think that, like, I'm so proud my children get to see that dad's not like just working and slaving away for some bullshit, like I'm grinding, man. And this time of year, I'm really at it, like we're 46 days out and we're running long days and nerves are at the highest level, and the budgets are tighter than ever because we're in a bear market. We feel that, but you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to make that an excuse. And nobody, you don't hear it on our team. You don't get a pass. You got to find a way.
Hey, you're a Marine, man. You guys can make it happen no matter what. And so I think that's obviously, part of the big reason why you probably were hired too, is, I think that Marine Corps ethos and the attitude is like, hey, we're just going to get this shit done no matter what. And that's honestly what you need in the battlefield we're in, right? Because, the people that take shots at you guys, they're taking shots at you guys from a fiat world. Like, most of the people that take shots at you guys are still living in a corrupted, decayed system of theft and bullshit. And they're going to judge you guys on what you guys are doing. And I just think it's completely asinine that you get these clowns trying to judge you guys and the David Baileys. And like I said, I'm some of their biggest cheerleaders because I understand the task at hand. I understand the culture war that it's taking to orange pill the world. And what you guys are doing, not only throwing in the US, but you're in the UAE, you're in Thailand, you're in China. I mean, you're all over the place. And you've got a well-coordinated machine. And so anyways, props to you guys. You guys have always been fair to me. You guys have always treated me good, and you guys have always thrown a great event.
I'll tell you, man, our company, we make good bedfellows, man. We're good partners. And I primarily last year, I really turned my attention toward AV, audio visual. Why not? That's my history, is that, I've been in television, I've been around cameras, lights, the work. So, I knew initially, even when I was doing activations, that I wanted more purview into that. And I started doing the news desk, our live stream, and getting involved with that. And that led to me doing, over the last couple of years, really taking over the stages and really all the lights and sounds of the expo and the even in the open source stage and some of the smaller hubs and stuff. It's profound, the way people walk in and see this, and I don't think they know. If you haven't been to a Bitcoin event, then you don't know what, it's not a trade show. This is really, the stage is the whole thing. And this year, I know you could go to the bottom of our list of speakers and see people that you would love to sit down and have a conversation with, go look, in the Z's in the alphabet of it, we've got the who's who of people, influential and influencers and builders, and, you name it, and I think that this year is a real opportunity for people to show up in a communal way. It's a bear market, it's going to be the people that care the most. This is when they show up, and this is when I think those real connections are made for people. And that's what I remember out of 22. That's what I remember out of even, the earlier stuff I went to in San Francisco, and, some of these other in DC, and some of these other smaller Bitcoin meetups that I went to, is that because they were smaller, and and we were fending off the bear market in 18, good gore, it was awful. But if you showed up, you were a real one, you were into it, and I think that that's what you're going to see this year, is the people that show up this year are the real ones. But we're not skimping on who our speakers are, man. We've still got the greats, they're showing up. And then we've got some surprises that are still yet to be talked about. And I wish I could share. I thought we were going to complete some stuff today, and it didn't happen. So I don't get to pull that cat out of the bag. But dude, just, be paying attention to the Twitter feed, because there's some real fun stuff coming, not just Bitcoin speakers, but some fun stuff.
I love it. And so you guys kind of changed things up from years previously. Like, you guys offered free tickets to the whole thing right after it ended. And then is the format still going to be kind of like industry day first, and then the other 2 days? Is that going to be standard protocol?
I think we retermed it to Pro Pass Day or Pro Day, or something like that. But it's the same thing, where Monday is going to be the Pro Pass and above, so Pro Pass and whale holders. And then Tuesday and Wednesday will be the full conference experience, the festival passes. Nakamoto stage is going to be amazing. I've been working on that with the team. Enterprise stage, it's going to be, talking about the industry and the B2B and a lot of that. That place was packed. It was like the last year you couldn't hardly get in that room. And so we've expanded it a bit. Open source stage, always amazing. We have a resident open sourcer in Pedro that really stands that up. It's a passion project for him to bring this, so it will come to life with the hub. Inside there, we're going to have a 101 workshop that Bitcoin Sessions is going to be really heavy-handed in and bringing to life. And so you can just imagine what kind of opportunities to learn are going to happen there. I mean, it's the kind of thing where you could just go there, you could take away opportunities to set up your own cold card or whatever device, or ask questions if you've got questions about how to start a node. If you've got is it start 9, do you want to do core or not? It's like all these things this is the where, you know, people are going to have these in this, you know, Rockstar Dev is going to be like walking around, you know, having these conversations. And so, you know, that's what I look at us as, you know, like for whatever the arguments are, you're this, you're that, blah, 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 we're a platform. We're a platform. We're an opportunity for people to come and have these conversations, to have discourse, to stand up all of the conversations. You know, I don't draw lines on that. You know, I'm like, if it's Bitcoin adjacent, if it's Bitcoin impactful, if it matters to us, then I want that person there, and I want to be having that conversation on our stage. And we've had, you know, numerous companies start up out of our events. You know, it's, you know, countless. I mean, I honestly, we used to keep track of that stuff, but because it was, you know, it was an important part of our sales. But honestly, it's just happened so much. You know, I think, you know, I don't even know, in the dozens probably. But yeah, that's how I feel.
So I do have a bone to pick with you guys, and I'll be frank, because you know, last year I did host a panel on digital 1776, but they put it on Industry Day, and so, you know, my panel is not about Industry Day. Nobody there is going to join that. And here we are in the 250th year of the anniversary of 1776, right? We are in a system, right, that is corrupt to the core, that we have no power in, right? We have no power through our votes. We have no authority through there. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with Jason Lowry's software thesis, but I think the Bitcoin conference is missing a huge opportunity in Bitcoin as a weapon system, not only as just another inflation hedge. Hey, who from the government can we get here? What new tricks does Tether have or whatever? I think, you know, if you guys, this is a revolution, man. And you know it. I know you know it in your heart. This is a revolution because we're all part of this. And I honestly think you guys are missing a huge revolutionary spirit in the conference itself. I think that's a huge hole for you guys, in my opinion, because I joined this not for the money, right? Like a lot of us join this for the revolution, and like we need numbers, man. Like we need more people to join and really, you know, defy the current system. And we don't really have that. We really don't have any of that. And so I'm going to be like, you know, like, hey man, like, you know, think about it, or at least bring it up maybe for next year or something. But we need a revolutionary spirit this year. It is 1776, and we're not getting out of our system any other way, bro. Like opting out of paying your taxes and self-custodial Bitcoin is the only power we have today. And think about all the watts in cyberspace that we now have with the network. Jason Lowry's software thesis talks about it, that it is a weapon system. And I think, you know, it could be very impactful if that were to happen. And that's obviously my bone to pick from my bias, but you know, something to think about.
Well, I can appreciate that, man. I don't think you're off base at all. And it definitely doesn't hurt my feelings to hear it. I think that there are always ways for us to improve and to adjust our direction. And there are some things that we do that I don't agree with. You know, there are things that we participate in and ways, and you know, both within our company and at our event, you know, like any relationship, you know, like there are things that, you know, I wish my wife did differently, you know, like I mean, you know, like nothing's going to be, you know, perfectly suited in all the ways. I don't also, I won't, you know, kid anybody. I don't necessarily have the power to change a lot of the, you know, the programming. I do influence. I offer suggestions and I give feedback on what's working, and I do keep enough of a finger on the pulse to be able to be like, hey man, this conversation that's going on over here, I think it's important, you know. But we do that really across, because we're a company of Bitcoiners, that is constantly happening. And I think there is a balance of like the business and the revolution and the Bitcoin maximalists and the, you know, the Bitcoin adjacent and the Bitcoin support. And you think about like the exchanges and the you know, a lot of the support areas that we have, you know, both financially for our company, but also like that offer products and opportunities to buy Bitcoin. You know, you think about Kraken or, you know, some of the other exchanges that are in play. These are great partners for us in the event. They really do stand up, whole areas of our event for us, like these are really good parts. They do other businesses, they have other things. And so I know some people have qualms with that. So, I think we have to go, okay, but does it serve the greater good? Are we, is this positive yardage? Are we making, and can we continue it? Is it sustainable? Because ultimately, like the event, it has to function, it has to make its margins in order to continue year over year and to keep feeding this machine that we are, and that's a very real thing. And I think I have seen, well, honestly, I saw in Acapulco, fall to pieces for a bit because they were so passionate that they couldn't get their shit together, and be good business partners and commit their and honor their agreements and things like that. And so we are not that, like I will say, we are an honorable company that has paid our debts, to the vendors that we've used. We don't have any outstanding, grievances, on record with the people that we do the business with. And I find that to be a point of pride for me, is that I give my word as a producer, like, hey, you bring in your lights and sound and set up our stages, and I'm going to make sure that you get paid when that's done. And so
and you guys put on an incredible event, no doubt. I do love the art gallery, the bazaar. The guys at Scares.city absolutely kill it. But yeah, that's my gripe with you guys. I want more revolutionary spirit. Take it to the bosses, take it to whoever you got to get us some more of a voice, man. Because honestly, I think it's and I think it's the biggest misconception for Bitcoiners. They think if we fix the money, everything's going to go back into place, hunky dory. We're still going to pay our taxes, and we're going to be no. People don't understand. Like, taxation is ending, right? Like, the peaceful weapon is Bitcoin, and there's no other way to stop the tyranny unless people choose. Right, we've now weaponized consent for individuals to opt out, for us to not actually support the things that are happening within our government. And I think, this event is more special than I think any of us can actually talk about, because it's going to be ever evolving as this revolutionary thing. It's not just going to continue as a monetary conference. It is a revolution. And that's why this event is not just about the status quo. This is literally a revolutionary event. And, that's my opinion. And I think that's going to be the direction of the Bitcoin conference as it grows, because people want to join up. It's funny because the Storm Area 51. Don't know if you've seen that documentary, but there's a documentary of the guy on Facebook that posted about, Storm Area 51. I've talked about this a couple of times, but I think it's an important lesson for people. And he just started a random Facebook page. Everybody wants to storm Area 51 because the government won't tell us what's going in. But now, after the Epstein files, after the COVID, after the genocide, people are fed up, man. And this guy, for storming Area 51, had 2 million views or people interested in just a couple of weeks to go storm Area 51. And I think if we get enough people that are fed up enough and be like, I want to join something that is honest and it has integrity and is based upon truth, I think that is a huge opportunity for you guys to grow this thing as a revolutionary conference. And so that's my two sats on it. Do it with whatever you will. But I think, if anything, you guys have nothing to lose if you guys start at least doing some of that.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I think that we have a ways to go to be that sort of outward about it, to be that vocal about that specific of an activity, it's that's a dangerous zone for a big organization like we are in a public company. And I think that it would be, you're right. I'm not saying that I agree. And I think that, I will say too, that non-Bitcoiners are just, are also growing in terms of they're being fed up with the system and paying for things they don't agree with. So, I've seen a lot more people sort of at least exclaiming that they were going to be protesting by not paying their taxes this year, and more than I had seen, and that seems to be a growing tendency. And, honestly, I feel that way too, and I'm like, last year I paid them in October, which I always do. I always extend it as long as I can because I'm just like, all right, and I'm just like, son of a bitch,
at the end of the day, right? It's a numbers game. They can't arrest everyone. And it's really a DDoS attack on their enforcement bureaucracy. And I know it can be a difficult conversation for you. You don't have to answer all the questions and do it that, but we are doing a stage in storm the IRS. And I publicly haven't paid my or filed my taxes for 6+ years. Okay. I'm still here. I'm still free. I refuse to bend the knee to a system of corruption. And I self-custodial my Bitcoin with multi-sig and, multi-jurisdictions. And so, that's the thing. If enough of us do it, Scott, the tables change in a very fast way, because remember, power of the government comes from consent of the governed. And if we no longer consent, we no longer give legitimacy to a illegitimate organization that is doing all these things. And so anyways, I'll get off my soapbox there. And I'll go back to go following Mr. Knox Hodl. He's one of us guys. Here's some of his old tweets. American taxpayers are now slaves to interest payments. Interest on federal debt is now so immense that it's consuming 40% of all personal income taxes. This is in 2023. So 3 years later, it's actually way, way more than that. Yeah. And actually, if you go look at Executive Order by Ronald Reagan 12369, you'll find out that back in the 80s, not one dime actually went to any public service, that it was all interest on the debt and other things going after people to get the taxes. And so even back in the 80s, you weren't doing anything with the tax money. And so it's all theft. It's all
they never stolen. Needed it.
They never need it. It's all a control system. It's a control system.
That's what you learn. Yeah.
And you've got, about Senator Warren, a modern day sheriff of Nottingham, the enforcer of tyrannical taxes and funder of nonsense green projects, which are not green, just subsidies of unauditable, unsustainable BS. She's a megalomaniac LARPing as a sweet old lady.
Well, that's because I was, I bought the compassionate Democrat line for a long time, man. So I took that personal, to be honest.
Now, one last question before we kind of get out of here. But are you familiar with the QAnon movement at all? The Q thing? Did you ever look into that?
No, I haven't gone deep down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
And I do follow some of the posts. I see, I'll see, especially some of the backwards, like people will post like, oh yeah, Q had already posted this was going to happen, and then this pops up, and so not really that deeply though. I'm not that well educated.
Well, we've connected a lot of the dots through, Q and Bitcoin, Satoshi, Trump, and all these other different things. I'll send you the research on it. Probably want to get a chance to look at until after the Bitcoin conference, because we know you're busy. We do appreciate your time. One last thing before you go too, we do have a Pepe of the week. Oops, for you. We always pick a Pepe. These are layer 2 tokens on Bitcoin. They're not shit coins. Nice. And so what it is, it's tokenization on layer 2. It's not using, layer 1 through store images and anything like that. But we chose Pepe Director, because you are, directing the conference here and getting it done. You don't know me. Looks like there's a Nakamoto card in the background. Anyways, these go for these are pretty expensive. There's only 100 of these, but they're pretty rare.
Wow.
And so anyways, we talk about Bitcoin being the anchor of truth, and that the only way to extend that anchor is through other markets, and that, an anchoring system is needed. And so we like the Pepe. We talk about it, scarcity guys, sell some Pepes at your conference. And so we appreciate that. But anyways, guys, go to Las Vegas, use code Pepe for 10% off. I assume, Scott, you'll probably be there. Maybe we'll have a drink together or something.
You bet, man. You bet.
Yeah, man. We appreciate your time today. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Man, I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. And, I feel like, there's a rare few that are willing to really put themselves out there, to really commit to something and then own it and be real. And, man, I thank you for your service in what you're doing out here on the front lines of trying to make change a reality. And, I only aspire to do that. I want more of that, and I need more of it in my life. And guys like you, I'm really glad that we, stumble onto each other, because it's meaningful, and what you've said, it gets to me, and I do feel it, and I do feel like there's more that I can do. And I hope for those out there listening that, they take this to heart and do all that they can, and will go push to the limits a little bit in trying to make change.
Hey man, we need as many people on board as we can do. And I think, we need to stop living in fear, because, we are in this spiritual battle and no one is coming to help us. We have to work together.
That's right.
And we have the numbers. Like, there's way more of us that are peaceful, honest people. And I think people need to just realize that we now have the power. We have been weaponized with this new thing. And when Bitcoin becomes the most valuable thing on the planet, they are going to be forced to negotiate with us. They have to come to us. They can no longer print energy for free. But it's up to us to force that change. We can't allow, the people in power to dictate the terms of this new arrangement. And so anyways, we appreciate it. We know you're on our side. We know you're going to do what you can, and we'd love to have you on our team, brother. So thank you for your service. And I look forward to seeing you in Vegas in person.
Count on it.
All right, Scott. We will let you go. I know you're hard at work. We appreciate the hour you gave us. I want to let you get back to your family and everything else you got going on. So thanks for being part of this, and we'll cut to commercials. Cheers. All right, guys. The Badlands shop. We do have you checked out the Badlands shop lately? You might be surprised by what you've been missing. From thoughtful gifts and unique finds to everyday household essentials and personal care must-haves, there's truly something for everyone at the Badlands shop. But here's what makes it different. Every single purchase you make is so much more than just buying stuff. You're investing directly in the movement. You're empowering American first businesses, lifting up fellow Badlanders, and supporting the creators who are building this community with us. Thank you for being a part of this. Your support means everything. Head over now to badlandsmedia.tv/shop or click shop on the main menu at badlandsmedia.tv and discover your new favorite brands. That's badlandsmedia.tv/shop. Sorry, guys. My voice is dead. Dying. Anyways, I think that was an awesome interview. What a cool dude. I've never met that guy before. And so Scott is an awesome person. I think he understands it. He gets it. Right. And I think change is in the air, my friends. Change is in the air. So we'll see how that comes about. And we'll go from there. What else do we got? Clown news. Lots of clown news out there, of course. We do have, of course, Congress voted to protect their sexual harassment records, but not America's elections. Says it all. This actually happened, guys. Elon Musk is telling you this actually happened. I know some of you guys see it, and you actually, it goes through you. You get mad, and then you're off to the next thing. But like that happened. They just passed automatic involuntary draft registration. Send your kids to die for Jewish bankers, Goyim. It's your patriotic duty. Involuntary? Yeah, right. It's a banker's war. It's always a banker's war. Of course, they want to sign you up. You don't have a choice. Rah, 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 country music and American flag. And, off you go to die for some Jewish banker. That's literally what it's been. Don't fall for the psyops, man. Just say no. Strategy acquired almost 18,000 Bitcoin. Here he is spending $1 billion, just a couple days ago. Price still hasn't moved. I don't know what's going on. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Plus, he's getting more Bitcoin like every day now. So Strategy raised $1 billion in a single day, and now they're getting like 4,000 Bitcoin a day from their from STRC, their stretch product, which is an income product. And every day it's above par, they stack more Bitcoin. And so, I don't know. That's insane. I don't know any other thing with an absolute scarce supply that is just still prices down. I can't explain it. I don't think anybody can. I think it's through obviously the paper markets. And then you have Adam Beck, who's going to obviously do the same thing. They're going to be buying 20K a week. It's absolutely insane, guys. And so you're still on the right course. We still, are basically, in these uncharted waters because of all the scams that are going on behind the scenes. But we just got to wait until it plays itself out. And so I know it's, I know you think you're probably crazy because it feels like you're crazy because you know what you know, and the reality of what's happening isn't matching what's in your head. And so it kind of fucks with you a little bit, right? Because we know there's an absolute scarcity. We know that they're rigging the systems. We know that they can't do it forever. And so when's that going to pop? And it's been a while, right? Anyways, Kazakhstan is the first central bank to buy Bitcoin.
And, as the ETFs came to market and gave regulatory clarity around the custody of Bitcoin, which is the single biggest thing when you're managing other people's money, you can't hold the assets yourself. And so the ETFs unlocked that functionality for fiduciaries. And there's been a trend of, individuals selling their coins to the ETFs. And we're seeing more pension funds, more endowments. Last week, the first central bank to buy Bitcoin, the Central Bank of Kazakhstan, announced that they'll be adding Bitcoin and digital assets. That really gets to my point about this intersection between the energy and electricity markets and the Bitcoin markets. Kazakhstan, famously sitting on huge reserves of nuclear power and electricity. So it's natural, we think, for them to adopt Bitcoin. There's a dozen countries like that are mining Bitcoin, at the government level, and we expect that to proliferate.
Amazing. It all, the intersection of everything.
Central banks buying Bitcoin. What now? What else do we have? We have, I was on Truth for the Commoners. So I was on with Marty Bent about, last week? Yeah, so I think it aired Monday. So here's a little clip from that. It's been a domestication process for a long time through licenses, permissions, right? Everything now is legal for a fee, right? You can't even go out and enjoy a park or an ocean without paying something when literally this world was given us to first, for free, essentially. And so what is that, right? What did they do for the world wars? Well, they sent all the alphas, right, into the meat grinder, right? Got rid of them through that process. And so now we're left with the decision. Are you going to continually bend the knee to a satanic group of pedophiles, or are you going to stand up? And, it takes a lot of courage for individuals to finally hit that red line and to be like, enough is enough. But if you look at, the past of 1776, like the gentlemen that put their lives on the line, they put their livelihoods on the line, like they were like basically facing sudden death or capture from an enemy that would literally torture them. Now we're like, we may have to go to jail for a little bit. And, in our scenario, we could literally put our Bitcoin in self-custodial Bitcoin, tell the government to go fuck themselves. And then you get free room and board for maybe a couple years. I mean, you can see what's happening. So yeah, cool conversation with Marty. He was, absolutely very, open to it. And, for the most part agreed with it. And so, at what point does the spark become a fire? At what point does the fire become an inferno? Hopefully that this year is that tipping point. And I think Trump is doing everything he can to expose it all. Like he's literally exposing the evil cockroaches in Israel at every possible level. I don't know. It's around the world now, you guys. And I go back to, this Q post. They openly call you sheep cattle. Well, who openly called us sheep and cattle? Well, Jeffrey Epstein did. When did those files come out? Well, they just came out right before we went to war with Iran. Shockingly enough, all the files came out and pointed fingers directly at Israel, directly at the Jewish state. Okay, here's this Q drop. They openly call you sheep cattle. There will come a time when none of them will be able to walk down the street. Biggest fear. None of them will be able to walk down the street. What is happening all over the world right now? Well, here's some Jews walking in New York City.
Jew, you're disgusting. Get the hell out of here, you animal. You don't even know how to speak it.
Right? They're absolute disgusting like freaks out there that are just these weird people that don't even fit in any type of normal society. Here they are being kicked.
In 1290, all Jews.
Sorry, this is them being kicked out of all the countries. I'm going to play that at the end. So here's a funny thing from Trump when asked about the situation in Israel.
What's your message to the Jewish community? What's your message? What's your message to the Jewish community?
Tragic. Did you see that? He was literally trolling Israel, I think, in that clip, which is, interesting. What's happening now? We don't hear much about the U.S. involvement. You hear almost every day is that they're being attacked. Like missiles are coming down all over Israel. And so whatever you believe is happening, what's happening now is Israel is being systematically put on fire and being blown up. That's what's happening. Okay, how we got into it and Trump supported this whole thing and we went to war with Iran, well, it gave Iran a free pass to attack Israel. Okay, so maybe Trump is using Iran to attack Israel because Trump can't attack Israel. How do you attack our greatest ally, right? So some strange signal this week. I want to point some of that out. Here's Flint. Iran conflict. Iran has crossed a significant threshold following confirmed strikes on banking infrastructure inside Iran. Iran military sources are now threatening retaliatory action against U.S. and Israeli financial centers. So Iran is targeting financial infrastructure inside of Israel. Okay. We had this thing happen, right? What was the other thing? Oh, I don't think I pulled it. Shoot. I think I pulled that one. Anyways. So whatever you think is happening, like what's happening now, and this is the most masterful 5D chess move ever, is we have Israel being attacked. Okay. So yes, I'm going to go on my anti-Semitic rampage right now. I don't care. I don't give a shit because this is the biggest battle we face. And it seems like it's culminating at the end of this because, Q said we're saving Israel for last. Is this it? I don't know. Probably not, but maybe it is, right? Hopefully we can get out of this freaking psyop because I'm tired of it. I know some of you guys are. And so, what else do we have? A strange signal. We had Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary's former chief speechwriter, going to the Bitcoin Policy Institute. What's that? I don't know. That sounds like some coincidence, some weird coincidence. Trump putting all these Bitcoin maxis inside of his, inside his bureaucracy. What's that? We had, we've got mining in space now. StarCloud will be the first to mine Bitcoin in space. This will be a massive industry in itself. Oh, but space is fake, guys. Totally fake, right? Right? Hey, Chris Paul, we're mining Bitcoin in space. Oh, well, space is fake. Okay. Sure, buddy. Hopefully they're going to work with Lori on that one. We've got Lori with supporting cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is now officially an emerging technology priority in the U.S. presidential cyber strategy. Can we say soft war? How long have we been talking about this? How many years? The Lori thing's coming to fruition. We've got a coincidence. I love when Lori uses the term coincidence. He's not using that like as a joke, guys. He is totally like, I think, hat tipping us. Okay. Trump's cyber strategy for America versus software. There is a significant conceptual overlap between these two documents, published in 2023, and shortly it was banned. Trump issued his in March 2026. What's that? I don't know. Am I tired of being right? I don't know. Am I right? Maybe. Who else is doing anything about it? Like, what else are people doing? You're going to go vote? Really? If you go vote, you're a freaking cuck. You are just not at all doing anything in what you think you're doing. And if you keep yelling at the system in which you have no power in and continually supporting that system through voting, well, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's you. Maybe you are the problem, right? And that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow because, like, humble yourself, bro, because maybe it is you and maybe it's not them because you keep buying what they're selling. So if you keep buying what they're selling and you refuse to move to a parallel system based on truth and honesty, well, then of course it's you. It's not them. You're buying their bullshit, right? You're falling for the American flag and, you know, the country music in the background and, you know, be part of something and go to a rally. Fucking stupid. You're an idiot. You're just falling. You're just being exploited for your belief system. And so they openly call you sheep and cattle. There will come a time when none of them will be able to walk down the street. So now we have, you know, Zionists being attacked in streets. What did you expect was going to happen when people found out the truth? That they're all littered throughout the Epstein files. Jewish people, Jewish connected Zionists. Okay. And then you have the connection here, right? Why do they persecute me so? You've got a Jewish guy there, and then you've got this thing with the Pope, right? We know, right, the Vatican are probably controlling them to some degree, right? The Jews are probably the proxy for the Vatican Bank, which is probably the head of the snake. And so, but the biggest battle is against the culture war, against Zionism itself. That's the biggest hurdle, right? Any hurdle. We also had some King of the Jews. Donald Trump was awarded a crown. So this was by this book, A Novel of the Holocaust by Leslie Epstein. Has all this 11/11 symbolism called King of the Jews. And apparently Donald Trump was awarded a crown of Jerusalem by the Israeli Heritage Foundation on July 10th, 2023. This award was presented to honor his efforts to support Israel and the Jewish people. So that happened 11 years, 1 month, and 1 day after the release of the book. Donald Trump was born, I don't know, something about it when he was born, and then Hitler died April 30th, 1945. I don't know, some 11/11 days. Anyways, there's some 11/11 with all that stuff. I didn't get into all of it, but interesting, no doubt. We also had this weird silent propulsion. So this verified X account, TMB spaceships with 1645 posts on plasma propulsion, went silent on February 27th. The same day, Major General McCaslin vanished. We pulled the archive. The account's 1998 hand-drawn schematic claims a sighting from the cockpit of a KC-135 at 150,000 feet. The author identifies ionized helium by sight and references lab experiments by name. So using helium-3, well, I think we know where that comes from. I think that comes from space, right? Isn't that the stuff that cools, you know, a lot of the quantum computers that Quast has talked about? We're mining it on the moon. Yeah, so what about that? That's interesting. So we have all these cool technologies out there that are, you know, basically being repressed. And so we're to the rug pulls of the week. A couple of rugs. We had President Trump officially removes Carrie Prejean Bowler, who was exercising her religious liberty by being the only Catholic woman who opposed Zionism. I love it. Like, the Jewish problem has to be so up in your face that you must be sick and tired of it. You must be sick and tired of the Jewish problem. I'm fed up with it, right? Some of you are just getting there. The more is coming. You are going to be so sick and tired of paying for Israel that you're going to get upset about it at some point. And so looks like some of the Goyim are finally waking up, right? Her being one of them. Some more rug pulls. Well, we had the Holocaust Museum. By the way, the Holocaust is faking gay, right? 6 million Jews didn't die. Okay. Holocaust Museum destroyed by Iranian missile strikes. How'd they let that one get through? They're destroying financial infrastructure. They're destroying a Holocaust Museum. How are these missiles getting through? I thought we were there to protect them. I thought the Iron Dome was protecting them. It's funny, the ones that get through, right? Kind of interesting. So are we using Iran to attack Israel? I mean, I don't know. Probably. So this is an interesting, deal. An IRS form that audits a full history of all your exchange of wallets. You gonna fill out that form? Go him for 100 different exchanges? Huh, Goy? You gonna fill that out? Really? Really gonna fill that out? You're gonna go through with your account and fill all those forms? Okay. All right. But look, there's concerns for people with families. Like Scott was saying, I get it. And if you know in your heart what the right thing to do is, well, the right thing to do is probably get all of your assets off the state ledger, right? Sorry, sell the house. Okay. Lease your cars. Go back to renting. Self-custodial Bitcoin. Live like a free man. Stop living in fear, because it's the things you own, quote unquote, that own you, right? Because if you own a house that's on the state ledger and you know if you defy their system, then they're going to take your house. Well, so the thing you own owns you. You don't own it. It's the state's property as far as they're concerned. They can take it at any point. So it's not yours. So if the fear is they'll take my stuff, then the thing you own actually owns you. And that's just look at the churches. If your church is a 501c3, all of them are, FYI, you're a fucking hypocrite, bro. Evangelicals are the biggest fucking hypocrites on the planet. All of you. The biggest ones that vote and pay taxes. You are the hypocrites. You are actively supporting corruption, theft, and all this immorality. And here you are being a good Christian, going to vote and pay your taxes. Fuck off, man. That's just like, how do you guys live with yourself? It's disgusting. And the churches that are just openly like doing this, I don't know, man. I'm coming to fire. I'm coming with fire to Nashville. So be prepared. I am done fucking being nice. GMoney toxicity is going through the fucking roof because I don't give a fuck. And it's time. It's freaking time. Okay. So be ready. Okay. Because I'm fucking not holding anything back. Okay. Basically, we pay the government taxes to fix our problems, and then they pay migrants with our taxes to come and cause more problems. Do you see what's happening? You're being drained, Goy. You Goy are being drained in every possible way, and you still want to vote and pay your taxes. It's unbelievably sad. Unbelievably sad. Anyways, I think I've talked enough shit tonight. But what do we have? Oh, we also had the rug pull of this douchebag saying Bitcoin's going to zero, right? The super cool technology guy.
Bitcoin is going to die. I don't mess with it.
You think Bitcoin's going to die?
Oh,
you touch nothing with crypto?
I don't touch it.
Tell me why you think it's going to.
Well, I just got a call from somebody a couple of days ago and said, "Hey, if you got 25 million, you can make 75,000. I just want to put it inside of an account to do some stuff." And this is a friend of mine, and I was like, "Do you realize that Bitcoin is still based on fiat? It's still and because the dollar is decreasing in its value, because the uncertainty of war around." Nobody wants their money in something that can be wiped out with a push of a button somewhere. I've stayed free and clear of it because it's been dropping a great deal.
So I haven't forgot that guy's name, right? He went on Joe Rogan and he even kind of got me with it. I don't know, the energy ether bullshit, I guess. I don't know, but he's obviously retarded. Oh, there was Captain Kirk, the Q on Star Trek that came out. This was interesting.
If you can't take a little too much winning, maybe you ought to go back to Reddit and crawl into politics. It's not safe out here. It's wondrous, with memes to satiate desires both spicy and dank. But it's not for the normies. Love Q. Trust the plan.
That was fun. What else do we have? We had the Palantir guy come out. So this, like, I've always had this in the back of my head that Palantir was like actually white hats doing stuff because the the Peter Thiel and all that stuff involvement with everything else and Bitcoin just had my spidey senses up. Like, dude, everyone's calling out Palantir for a bad guy, which means the PSYOP is working. And I think deep underground, like actually Palantir is good guy tech. So have a listen to Alex speak about it.
Industry has to support the warfighter. The one thing, though, that I think even now is underestimated by all actors in industry, and including in Silicon Valley, is how disruptive these technologies are. If you are going to disrupt the economic and therefore political power significantly of one party space, highly educated, often female voters who vote mostly Democrat, and military and working class people who do not feel supported, and you feel like you believe that that's going to work out politically, you're in an insane asylum. Like, that you cannot have it. This technology disrupts humanity's trained, largely Democratic voters, and makes their economic power less, and increases the economic power of vocationally trained, working class, often male voters, and so these disruptions are going to disrupt every aspect of our society. And to make this work, we have to come to an agreement of what it is we're going to do with the technology. How are we going to explain to people who are likely going to have less good and less interesting jobs from their perspective? And how is it that we are going, and by the way, on the military thing, these technologies are dangerous societally. The only justification you could possibly have would be that if we don't do it, our adversaries and will do it, and we will be subject to their rule of law. So if you decouple this from the support of the military, you're going to have an enormous problem explaining to the American people why is it that we're absorbing the risk of disrupting the very fabric of our society, including the most powerful parts of our society, if it's not because it's about maintaining our ability to be American in the near term and long term. And
so that's interesting. Also, check out this other small clip from Alex Karp.
Conspiracy theorists, you may hate this, but there's one person protecting your right to be a conspiracy theorist that actually has a seat at the table, and that person is me. You may not want to hear that truth, but it is fucking true. Yeah. And maybe do a little more reading before you pontificate on your absurd and obviously ill-informed and many times stupid opinions. Okay, so because like you're attacking the person who's protecting you, idiot. It's like fucking so stupid.
He might be right, guys. He might be right. But all the normie Bitcoiners are terrified of Palantir. And look, I get it. It's a razor's edge, right? If we're wrong about this, it's going to be bad. But I guess we'll fuck around and find out. There was also this interesting clip about, I think it was JFK's grandkid that talked about this.
This is Jack Schlossberg, since deleted social media post. He designed a recipe for a Maha energy ball. Here it is. Did? Yes. Here it is. Ready? You ready? Quote, 2 ounces of Jew blood. Ashkenazi, not Sephardic. 4 cups of male.
This is what the Schlossberg guy said?
Baked at 300 degrees until totally dry, like your wife. He has written things, creepy things about vice.
Maybe he's right. A Maha energy ball. 2 ounces of Ashkenazi Jew blood. I like it. What else we got? Here's an interesting old Lori take too.
Like it would be, so why do we listen to like bankers talk about the technical merits of Bitcoin? Just because it's a coin, right? Because it was just arbitrarily called a coin because that's what its inventor called it and what it intended to build, and because it doubles as a great money. You know what doubles as a great money, Robert? Real world physical power transferable through cyberspace. The ability, right? Yes. That would be super awesome money because it's super secure money, right? So you can just stop calling it money for a second, Okay. When Michael Saylor says, okay, it sounds like Michael Saylor is describing a paywall, which is why people get pissed off. It's like, oh, you're just doing a paywall. It's like, stop calling it money. Call it cyber power, real world cyber power. If you demand people say you can't post a tweet or you can't spam a bunch of crap unless you post Bitcoin or cyber power as collateral, what you are technically doing to them in shared objective reality is imposing a real world physical cost on them. You are making it too physically cost prohibitive to spam. That's why Adam Back invented the cost function specifically for spam, but that's not the only way. That's not the only thing it can defend against.
Right.
And so we are now in this like world where, holy crap, Bitcoin is cyber power. We can use it. We can invent protocols to secure ourselves by imposing physical costs on people who try to deny our access to property, to try to systemically exploit our policy. And we can actually start to use this bad boy to overturn the massive state of exploitation and oppression that is current cyberspace. Cyberspace.
Overturn the massive amount of exploitation. Yep. Only one way to do it, folks, through cyber power and digital 1776. All right. GMoney signing out. Peace, y'all. Shade away.
That shall take place shall be the most unusual thing, a transfiguration, a going into the marketplace, if you wish, into the news media, where Time Magazine will have no choice but to say what I want them to say. Newsweek, what I want to say. The View, what I want to say. Trump shall become a trumpet, says the Lord. Trump shall become a trumpet. I will raise up the Trump to become a trumpet and Bill Gates to open up the gate of a financial realm for the church, says the Lord. I will not forget 9/11. I will not forget what took place that day. And I will not forget the gatekeeper that watched over New York, who will once again stand and watch over this nation, says the Spirit of God. It shall come to pass that the man that I place in the highest office shall go in whispering my name. But God said when he enters into the office, he will be shouting out by the power of the Spirit, for I shall fill him with my Spirit when he goes into office, and there will be a praying man in the highest seat in your land. There will be a praying president, not a religious one, but I will fool the people, says the Lord. I will fool the people. Yes, I will. God says the one that is chosen shall go in, and they shall say he has hot blood. For the Spirit of God says, yes, he may have hot blood, but he will bring the walls of protection on this country in a greater way, and the economy of this country shall change rapidly, says the Lord of hosts. Listen to the word of the Lord. God says, I will put at your helm for 2 terms a president that will pray, but he will not be a praying president when he starts. I will put him in office, and then I will baptize him with the Holy Spirit and my power, says the Lord of hosts. Come on!
Whenever you wake up in the morning, today is going to be a great day. You have to nudge your brain, right? We have a conscious mind, we have an unconscious mind, we have a self-image, and your subconscious is paying attention to the words that the conscious mind is saying. And so if you're like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed, today's going to be a bad day, you're going to have a bad day because you just programmed your subconscious mind to do that. If you want to have a good day, it starts the night before. Is what went well today? So when I go to bed, I say a prayer, and then I go, what went well? And I go on a treasure hunt because I'm purposefully looking for what are the right things that happened? And I look for the micro moments, like what's the smallest thing? And for me, where I live, I see a lot of hummingbirds and butterflies, and I just focus on them.
In 1290, all Jews were kicked out of England. In 1306, they were expelled from France. In 1430, exiled from Germany, followed by Spain and Portugal. They were also driven out of Russia, boycotted in Italy, and time after time, tossed out of every major European city. But why? At a time when Christians were studying physics, art and astronomy, the Muslims focused on maths, medicine and poetry. But the Jewish community, from cousins and uncles to neighbors and friends, disproportionately worked in finance. Riba and usury banned interest, which gave the Jews a monumental advantage. Wherever they settled, centuries of financial knowledge plus interest allowed them to prosper tremendously, to the point they would own most important assets within every empire. This meant kings and peasants alike all borrowed from the Jews, and when crisis hit the empire, repayment was no longer an option.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.
Delay, my friends.
Because you're living an illusion. I can't wait till it hits you. Recollection, your misconception. Obsessed, you say the green is successful. Material gain causes serious stress. More love, because you're living an illusion. Wake up now, yes, you're living in confusion. You're not a scholar, you're a waste of a teacher. Preach the dollars, you're a waste of a preacher. Love, come on, that's what we need. More love, that's what we need to succeed. Not dollars, not what we need. Let's give them love so the youth can achieve. More love, come on, that's what we need. More love, that's what we need to succeed. Not dollars, not what we need. Let's give them love so the youth can achieve now. You gotta see clearer, clear on up, stay up and stay clear of. Go back to basics, look in the mirror. You're in a dream, wake up and now gear up. Come on, love, continually loving, that's realer. Make up your mind and emerge as a leader. Now it connects many off, feed off. Rise up above, cause the youth they feed off. Love, come on, that's what we need. More love, that's what we need to succeed. Not dollars, not what we need. Let's give them love so the youth can achieve. More love, come on, that's what we need. More love, that's what we need to succeed. Not dollars, not what we need. Let's give them love so the youth can achieve now. You clearer. Yep, you gotta see clearer. More love, come on, that's what we need. More love, that's what we need to succeed. Not dollars, not what we need. Let's give them love so the youth can achieve now.